And so it's been interesting. A lot of you know my philosophy on commenting on LinkedIn he's just answered me. You're right there. Cool. So I'll just get it started. He's going to get here in a second. A lot of you know my philosophy on LinkedIn with comments and using them as insights to know whether or not something that I say resonates. And a lot of times I comment on something, it gets 0 likes. And I know that whatever I said somehow wasn't smart, because I do know that when I say something that's smart, it resonates with people and they'll like the comment. And so there was one today that I think is interesting, and there was a very large poll that was going on that was basically, I'm not going to be able to find it in my notifications. Here it is. It's basically, the question was, do you think employees should be encouraged to promote their company on LinkedIn, especially for B2B businesses? And if you actually voted, you would see that about 60% of people said yes. And the question's broad and open to interpretation. But the way, if I take it directly, it's like, should we be telling people to just like go and share press releases and promote the products and all those things? And what I responded, it's getting a lot of traction, is, and I think a lot of people will resonate because they've seen people that have done this differently, which is the quickest way to get nobody to pay attention to you on LinkedIn is to spend all of your time promoting your company and your products. Literally nobody cares. And so the way to navigate around that is to talk about things that you either know and can help someone you can either know and teach someone something and help them, or things that you like that it will attract other people that like the same things. And through either of those activities, people will become aware of what you do because they can see the headline in your profile. And so a lot of people have never looked at my profile, but they see my posts enough to say CEO of Refine Labs, which then creates awareness about the company. There's a ton of people. Colin Cadmus has created a ton of awareness for AirCall. Justin Welsh created a ton of awareness for Patient Pop. It happens in Matthew's CEO. I forget his name off the top of my head, but like it creates awareness about the company without needing to just like spew out a bunch of stuff about your company and your products and all those things. Now, if you're using it to highlight things about the company that are good for recruiting purposes, I do think that there's a place for that. I do think that there is a spot to mix those in. But in general, I'm sure that we've seen one person or another that continuously says, this company's so great, come buy my stuff, need help with this. And I think over time, people will just tune you out. Okay, here he is, co-host. What's up, man? Not sure how much you caught of that.
What's up, man? That was a pretty epic rant.
Thanks.
I know where it came from because I saw your comment.
I saw your comment too. I don't know if you saw my response.
Oh, I forgot what I said.
Cool. So we won't keep all the people waiting. Happy to dive right in here. I got a good roadmap. If you have anything you want to cover, just feel free to like dive in and take over. That's cool with me. But the first piece is that I need to thank you, because a couple episodes ago we were talking about retargeting for free trial flows.
Yeah.
Or freemium, whatever you want to call it. And so I started implementing that both on retargeting and cold targeting audiences. And so obviously I'm not a proponent of running that to get a demo or to have a meeting with the sales rep, because I just know that the conversion rates through the funnel on those are awful. But the free trial one has been really interesting, getting people into the product for like $7 each retargeting and about $25 cold audiences, which has been significantly better in terms of cost efficiency and quality than what the company's been running with AdWords. Same execution, same conversion point. So might be kind of moving more into the SMB performance space for a little while, because I feel like we got something that's working. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the perfect kind of midway point. I look at free trials and freemiums as, I think it's the perfect midway point. At the very bottom of it, it's like that demo, request pricing info, talk to a solutions expert, which no one wants to do. Then on the other side of that, it's too far away. It's download this white paper, attend this webinar. It's those sorts of things. Maybe even, I know you love the case study play, which it's nice. I'm not going to front. It's nice. It's a little bit deeper than a midway point, but I feel like the free trial or the freemium is just like great because if you have a good quality free trial offering, you're a company that's nailed your onboarding flows. Monday.com has a really sick onboarding and free trial process where like the minute you do single sign on through your Google account or however you want to create the account, you're in there. Like the first thing you see is the platform.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty nice. So if you're a company that's mastered it, I would say this is definitely a good way to go.
Right on. So we got a little roadmap here. You clearly, because you commented on my thing, I've been seeing a lot of my stuff about just like the amount of waste that I'm seeing in AdWords. So $10 to $50 million companies spending at least $1 million a year on AdWords. If you do the math, that's like $100,000 a month on Google AdWords. And the only things that are driving revenue essentially is branded search, which is an extreme example, but it's essentially what's happening. And anyone else that's running like $1,000 a month in Google AdWords, you'd see the same thing just on a smaller scale, right? And so, so yeah, I mean, I've talked enough about it, but just want your take mainly to understand how you think and position on how to run a profitable AdWords campaign. Because I think what people will find is if you want to run profitable AdWords campaigns, you end up spending a lot less. And then you got to figure out what to do with that money somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. So what you said is actually one of the most common offenses in the paid advertising game. And I seen this here's a real common scenario that I actually see quite a lot is companies will do phrase matching on keywords that typically have low volume or lower volume, but are high buying intent. And this may be a symptom of like you're in an industry that just doesn't have keywords with big volume, and that could be a thing. So so companies then realize, shit, well, we need more volume because we need at bats. Exact is going to take too long. Broad might even take too long. Let's just go phrase. Let's go a little bit. Let's just go, wider. And what ends up happening, unfortunately, is you look through your search terms report, which is the report that tells you the exact things that people are searching for that contain that phrase element. And what you start to see is patterns over time of just like wild, obscure things that you cannot even contain by negating them in the negative keywords list. So what you then realize is, shit, we're getting like all these wacky long tail clicks that could be expensive. There's no way to really mitigate this. We want to go broad to get more volume, but now we're getting clicks that are too wacky. so the only, and we can't scale it down through going through the negative keyword list and negating those things that we don't want to come up. So now what we have to do is actually go back to the drawing board a little bit and think about how to go modified broad and zero in on those things that actually are relevant. You start to notice these patterns over time, and then you refine it that way. But like you said, you have to really know, Chris, like if non-branded search if you're bleeding a non-branded search phrase match, well, you should at least know that. Like if you can't figure that out and know, okay, this is the problem area, we're doing pretty decent in branded. Yeah, there's optimizations we could make, but this is the area where we're bleeding, and you're not just focusing on those bleeding areas, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I almost feel like to run it quote unquote profitably, if you're selling a velocity or SMB type product, you end up having to cut your budget by like 65% and get focused on high intent keywords and lower the volume. And I think that's what people should be doing, because then you have, if you're in the $100,000 a month example and you cut your budget by 65% and you focus on high intent, you got 65K to go put on social or YouTube retargeting like Monday.com does really well, or anything. You know what I mean? Instead of just throwing money away on these searches that have absolutely no intent, driving irrelevant contact submissions, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And what you just said is so crucial, because not like irrelevant clicks are so much more painful than just the clicks. Like it's so much more painful than just the monetary bleed, because here's what also happens. you know what? I'm going to fill out every contact form in my journey right now as a shopper is going to lead to irrelevant demos. It's going to lead to wasted sales utilization. And over
sales
time,
coming back and being like these,
they're going to come back and be like, we're seeing a lot of irrelevant, we're seeing a lot of basically return to demand gen or unqualified because of these reasons. And that's the difference between, someone asked me, what's the difference between demand gen and like being like a specialist? Like if I'm in PPC versus demand gen, like how does it differ? Well, if you're like agency PPC, you're just looking at front end metrics, those things that you always talk about. And it seems like every post now, Chris.
I see it everywhere, man. It just needs to get fixed. Yeah.
It just needs to get fixed. It's like there's potholes everywhere. It's like New York City, pothole. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to know where those potholes are, and you got to have a plan to plug them up. And I can continue ranting about this all day. I know Chris and I are very heavily aligned, but essentially, companies are wasting a huge amount of money on their paid ads, and unfortunately, a lot of companies have gotten into a rhythm of just, this is the cost of existing. This is the cost of doing business. When when you're at the top and you need to play defense, this is just the cost of doing business. And I disagree. I don't think it has to be that way.
Yeah, and they chalk it up as an operational expense, potentially not even in the marketing budget anymore. And then so they just like, okay, we were going to spend it anyway, so who cares how it gets spent, which I think is a very dangerous position to be in. And then, go. It seems like you got something to say. Go ahead, jump in.
I was going to say, there's one company that is really, I love their approach on this. So many people disagree. Like there was a Twitter war on it, but Ahrefs, the SEO company, they always have come out and said, we've done demand gen right. We've done organic content marketing right. We've done audience development right. We've done everything right. They have the Chris Walker playbook. It's one of the few companies that have it and do it. And they run the Chris Walker playbook, and they've been running the Chris Walker playbook for like 5 years. So then they said, hey, competitor brands, like if you're Moz or SEMrush, you want to bid on us? Go for it, because you're going to lose. That's demand gen. When your brand is so powerful, you've done everything right, that you welcome someone to bleed their money to Google. You welcome that. You say, you want to throw your money away? You want to bid against us? It's going to cost you. And another really good example of this is Nextiva has an integration with Microsoft Teams. And I noticed in Phrase Match that we were getting a ton of clicks for, so we have Microsoft as part of the phrase modifier. So you would see things like Microsoft VoIP from Microsoft Teams. Now, guess what? Microsoft Teams has a raving pack of loyalists who will die for Microsoft Teams. They love Microsoft Teams. They're all about Microsoft Teams. They love it. Now, they may see the Nextiva ad pop up, and they may click on it out of just pure curiosity, but they're not going to buy Nextiva. They're just not. They're just not, because it's Microsoft. So that leads to the point in the conversation where, maybe we'll take it here, Chris, is, should you give your sales team opportunities where they have a tremendous disadvantage, where they have to go up against Mariano Rivera in the 9th inning, who's throwing smokers down the pipe, and you got very low chance of hitting it? I'm just keeping it real. Do you want to go up against Mariano Rivera in the 9th inning? He's fresh coming out of the bullpen, and he's angry, and he's going to roast you? Like, is that who you want to go up against? Like, literally, that's the way I look at it. It's, you want to go after the guy who's, been, he's got rubber arm. He's tired, right? Mm-hmm. He's been slinging balls for 7 innings, and he's about to, mess
give up a home run.
Yeah, he's about to give up a dinger, right, over the Green Monster in Fenway Park. So, it's a baseball analogy there for you, but that may be where we should take the conversation, is like, even though there's a chance your sales team could win it, like, and the traffic is very relevant and it's a good opportunity in theory, like, should you still give them those opportunities that they are unlikely to win, even though there's a small chance, but it's going to be very tough. Like, do you still buy that traffic because in theory it's right? And that is a tough call for a lot of companies to make.
Yeah, and just to close this out, I think I was talking about the fact that some companies chalk up AdWords expense of $100K a month into OpEx instead of a marketing budget. And the last thing where they get stuck is that they get so used to having 3,000 leads from AdWords come in, regardless of the quality, that they're scared to change it. It really does happen. And I have in the past, this is probably like 6 months ago now, presented metrics to the CEO of a company and said, look, your CAC payback on these non-branded ad groups is 65 months. And we're spending $500,000 a year, and you're not going to shut them off. And he said no. And he kept running them. I'm not shitting you. He kept running them, and he still to this day is running them. Cool. Good transition point. Actually,
That's
go ahead.
painful.
Jump in. It's tough because I wanted to take that $500,000 and go and use it on Facebook and actually drive results.
Oh man.
And so good, perfect segue to the next topic. I think people will like this one. I think it's very counterintuitive. I've actually just started to figure out how to say this. I'll give some background for Gaetano. So like when we go in and work with companies, they have a certain baseline performance, right? They're getting X amount of leads. Those leads are converting at Y. They're creating this much pipeline. Whatever that is, they have a normal baseline set. When you come in and you run a different demand program, the baselines are out the window. If you completely change what you're doing, the amount of leads that you're going to get is going to change. The conversion rates through the funnel are going to change. The amount of qualified pipeline is going to change. Who's coming inbound is going to change. Everything will change if you change the whole model. And so what I'm often seeing now, like 4, 5, 6 sophisticated SaaS companies in a row, when we come in and 60 or 90 days later, I'm having a conversation with the CMO, it's that I'm getting pressure from this, blah, 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 because our, leads are down by 30% since we started doing this. And then I go back, look in Salesforce, and I'm like, well, our qualified pipeline's up 50%. Our actual marketing revenue has been trending up since we started this. We have a 30-day sales cycle. It makes sense that we'd be here. The sales cycles are getting shorter. And so the point is, when you align your outcomes to revenue, not leads, oftentimes your leads will go down because it changes the things that you do. It changes where you advertise. It changes how you drive conversions. It changes what your goal is for each execution. And so just wanted to let you jam on that for a while because I value your opinion on this one.
I mean, dude, I love it. I love it. I love it so much, man. I don't even know how to tell you how much I love it. Some cool metrics you can look at actually I will say there are ways to kind of quantify this a little bit more, actually. I see where you're coming from, Chris, and I've actually dealt with this before. If you look at sales rep utilization, so on the sales reps actual activity metrics, you can start to see like before, how much harder did they have to work with all those leads? They had to take way more phone calls. Talk time may have been down. Average talk time per conversation may be down because you're doing more conversations at lower quality. You're not able to really get deeper in because the leads are not as relevant. So even if they're getting to the point where it's a demo, it's just immediately not a good fit. It never continues. They're taking more calls. They have to work harder to achieve the same result. In your model, in theory, the number of calls per rep should be going down, or the number of conversations should be going down, but the length and quality of those conversations should be going up.
Inbound calls. And then yes. I love the idea of them spending the rest of their time going outbound or creating content for their target accounts, not following up with junk created for marketing.
That's right. Or using that excess time to build their personal brand on social, things that we're both big proponents of, which, could pay off over time once you build that muscle. But if all these things are happening, marketing marketing source pipeline increasing, revenue increasing, and the deal size, it depends on how you want to look at that. I mean, that could be something, but generally when you have that, and it's aligned to less conversations happening, but higher quality conversations, then reps should be happier. And you should be getting this feedback from reps because they don't have to work this, as hard to produce the same outcome. They can work more efficiently and spend their time actually getting more personalized in their follow-ups, spending more time in the data, using their time more productively rather than just like, all right, now I have to use every single moment I have to just respond to this inbound lead. There's so many inbound leads. And this is like a sales operations challenge to overcome, because what is the right ratio of reps to leads? What is the right amount of activity and effort per lead broken down by lead size? You don't want to have the same amount of effort on the small Z's, on the onesies and twosies. You don't want to exert the same amount of effort on those that you would exert on maybe a 500 line opportunity or something like that. So there's a lot of ways we could take this conversation, but those are just things that come to mind.
And then for anyone that's trying to implement some of these things, the first indicator that you should have is qualitative feedback from your sales team that someone comes over and says to you, or you can go and ask either way, that the people that we're talking to are the people that we want to talk to. You're sending us the right people. We're having good conversations. They're moving fast. They were super receptive to the conversation. Whatever that feedback is, that's the indicator that should tell you that you're on the right track and you should keep going.
Yeah, man. I love that.
Cool. So we'll take a little pause right here. Anyone that has questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. We will certainly get to a couple of them. I got a couple through email. We have one more topic on the agenda. We're going to shout out someone that we had the nominee from last week. So I got several submissions by email and LinkedIn. So we'll have someone be able to tell their story a little later on about what they implemented and what they learned, which I'm really excited about. Cool. Really interesting topic here. I think we could, I think that actually a lot of people, if you think about it, will get a ton of value out of this one. It's kind of like brainstorming blue ocean. Like I have some ideas, I'm sure you do too, which is if we fast forward 5 years, what does the SDR role look like? I think it's a really interesting concept, both for people that are, if people listening to this are currently SDRs and want to figure out how to be ready to be the best SDR in 5 years, or I have a hypothesis that in SDR, the things that everything about them might completely change, and an SDR might be a full career role where you make a lot of money. Who knows? But I just wanted to kind of open it up for you and see what you think.
Oh man, this is good. I feel that the SDR, I feel like SDRs will be the new AEs in some ways. So I think what you're going to have as like what's classically been known as like the entry level SDR, the job title on that will change to junior sales researcher, sales specialist, because the SDR system as we know it's like today for the most part is pretty much broken. I don't agree with like the just the typical workflow that an SDR would have today, whether it's inbound or outbound. It's just not enough training, too much expectation, not realistic,
not buyer centric.
Right? I mean, essentially most companies are feeding their SDRs to the wolves, and the only ones that really make it out are the ones that have that like tough skin, killer instinct, can figure out somehow, some way. The cards are just so stacked against you. The deck is so not in your favor to succeed. Now I hear this time and time again. Like I have friends and people just who hit me up on LinkedIn, like, "Hey, I'm a new SDR. I just changed careers. I don't know much about tech. You know, my ICP is CIOs. I have no idea how to connect with the CIO, no idea how they think, no idea how they operate, no idea what they like, no idea where they hang out online. So minimal trainings, you get some BS script and hey, get at them." Now, if you work at a behemoth of a company like Salesforce, you're probably going to have some luck just based on the name of Salesforce. But if you're, at some company that no one has heard of before, good luck, pal.
You got one of those today.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Just not interested. No, leave me alone. Whether you call, whether you email, if it's unknown person from unknown company with semi-relevant offer, just like, no, just no. So,
Yeah.
that is making it so hard for SDRs nowadays. And I think that what you're going to see is evolution. You're going to see more of a separation of person doing that very entry level research work as opposed to the person that's actually setting up the account executive for the demo. And what I actually am also noticing is that, especially for more transactional models, there's too much handoff. There's too much, oh, you're interested. Let me ask you a few basic discovery questions. Oh yeah, you meet these stupid band criteria. Let's pass you now to an AE. The AE asks you that same set of questions again. You got to, the prospect has to repeat everything. They repeat everything. Oh, you actually want the high level package. Oh, I have to transfer you to a sales engineer for that. So now the prospect has gone through 3 layers of people whom they've had to repeat the same information to 3 times, and still no real value has been given.
So you're going to lose a lot of people there.
You're going to lose a lot in that process. So until companies figure out how to clean that up, and the restructuring, the revolution of the SDR role as we know it will be a huge part of improving that process. So yeah, I see some people maxing AE, hybrids. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think that's where it's going for sure. So reducing the friction of the handoff process, having more sophisticated SDRs who actually have business acumen and can manage a sales process. I think that's the direction it's going.
Yep. Completely agree with the full funnel. I just think it is so much more aligned with how buyers want to buy. The second component of this is that you got to fix demand so that there's good quality leads coming in and at a volume that can support the business before this change happens. So those 2 steps need to be in place. And then the interesting thing that I've been thinking about from an SDR, how the SDR role would change, and obviously the title would change, is that if you fix the demand and you move to a full funnel, the things that you can do with that with the objective of the role, which is sales development, which has somehow become, 100% robotic outbound. If you're doing sales development, there's so many things that you could do. You could go, like, I like the idea personally of going and either finding 5 of your evangelist customers and hiring them into your company, and then having them create just purely evangelist content for all these different platforms. And that's how you do sales dev. Love that concept. I was really hoping that someone takes me up on that one, whether it's your evangelist customers or people in the market that already have audiences, and you're basically just like buying exposure, whether that's on a contractor basis or on a full-time basis. I think either of those ways can work. I just think that people need to get more creative in the options, because the goal of the role is to develop sales, not to make cold calls. And so if we change that whole dynamic, there's a lot of other things that you could do to accomplish that outcome.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. Especially your point on how marketing can improve everything, which I've been thinking more about as well. Like one use case, Chris, that's interesting is, and I realized this because I did this to a company recently. I approached them and I said, hey, I have 0 interest in buying your product, ... right now. However, at some point in the future, I may need it. I don't know. But the reason why I'm reaching out is because I just want to see what the product looks like, just to know, just because I'm curious. I just want to see it. I just want to know what it does. How does it work? What kind of benefit does it have? I'm just purely looking at this out of a curiosity standpoint. Even though I do fit your ICP, you're probably licking your chops at just seeing me come in through the door, right? I fit everything that would qualify as like a good prospect conversation meeting, whatever you want to call it. So with that in mind, should companies have an option where it's like, just curious about what the product does? Click here, go see a pre-recorded explainer video, or some way to mitigate that. Because I do think that is a thing that happens in more complex sales, where there's this tension point of, oh, they're just curious and they want to see it. But now this creates an excuse for me as a sales rep to just hound this person over time. and figure out ways to just send them stuff in the mail and, hey, just checking in, and hey, how's it going? Even though you don't really mean all that, you just want to keep me alive so that when the day comes that I need your software, that I'll go to you and buy. But it's not creating a real relationship.
And one of the things you said, just to kind of echo what I said, which I think is, I want to go a little bit deeper on it, which is that if you fix marketing, it fixes a lot of issues in a revenue process. And so I look at a lot of companies, and I have a post written up for this. I can't wait to put this video with it, which is that companies think that they have a sales problem. However, they have a marketing problem that presents itself in sales metrics. And so if you were able, so what they do is they get a sales trainer, buy more tech, hire more salespeople, get more SDRs. And what they really should do is fix marketing. And the whole thing would fix itself. I've gone into companies that say, we have a sales problem, we need sales training, all these different things. You fix marketing, sales gets way easier, the whole team overperforms. It really is that simple, but companies are just misdiagnosing it and therefore trying to fix it with the wrong medicine. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, not much more to add. not just more to add. Yeah, fix your marketing, and a lot of the problems will be solved.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Cool. So we have some questions going in here. I'm scrolling through. If you saw anyone, Gaetano, that you want to take, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'll find one.
I thought Dave made a good point on the enhancement of the SDR, or the upgrading of the SDR. I don't know if I made my point super clear in that, but I do definitely agree that, you know, they need to, it's no longer an entry level role essentially, and it shouldn't be treated as one, because otherwise then it's really just a junior marketer. At the end of the day, it's just that's really a marketing role. So with upgrading them, paying them more, especially in high ticket sales, better commissions, right? All these sorts of things, harder for senior AEs to prospect when they're trying to close. Yeah, for sure. So having that division of labor, I think, can work in many cases, but to close out on that point, the evolution of the SDR will require an upgrade in all facets of the world.
Agree with that. Yeah, I mean, if you're expecting these people to have educated, detailed conversations with your sophisticated buyers, they're going to have more knowledge than a lot of the people that are doing the job today.
That's it. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Can you talk about frequency for distributing content through ads? I think this is a great question. Let's say you're trying to build your reputation with buyers in a new market. Pretty sure this is it depends question, budget, product complexity, but maybe you have some thoughts. I'll let you kind of jump on this, Gaetano, if you want to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like asking, how long should my blog post be? You know, it all, I hate to give the classic consultant answer, but it depends. And that is more going to be around the way your audience likes to consume content and what their preferred cadence is going to be. Like the Instagram meme audience, they like memes every hour. You know, new meme every hour. For let's just say learning and development professionals, you give them a white paper, they're going to nerd out on that for, you know, weeks to come. So it just depends on what the audience is and what their appetite is for content consumption.
On my side, if you're doing it through any of the core social platforms, you should get a metric called frequency, which is the average number of times someone has seen a specific ad. And I cut most ads at a frequency of 2. And so if you have an audience of 15,000 people, it would essentially be 30,000 impressions, an average of 2 each. And then I would kill the ad. And ideally, I immediately have new content and creative to swap to. So actually, in the ideal model, you always have ads running. You always have content ads running. You're just continuously refreshing them. I think it's a really interesting. And then if you're able to, over time, learn how to produce content that's good, that people don't tune out because they don't feel like it's an ad, they feel like it's educational content they want to learn, then you don't get into a place of fatigue. I think what you get into a place of fatigue is when you're in LinkedIn, you see the same outreach ad for 3 months. And I've seen it 600 times. That's when I'm at fatigue.
The same one, the one that replaces like whatever it is your company name is, with the same following copy. So you see it with Refine Labs, I see it with Nextiva, and they just run it. That's pretty wild.
So yeah, the way that I monitor fatigue is based on the image is the thing that most people see the most, and so it's the frequency of the creative to the audience.
Yep, right on. Chris, by the way, I got time for like one more question. I'm meeting my younger brother for dinner. It's the last night in Miami where you can go to a restaurant before we go back to lockdown state,
Ooh.
which is tomorrow. And then it's back to like full hardcore quarantine mode. So
cool. Well, I'd like you to see this part. I think it'd be cool to be a part of it. So
okay, cool.
So Katie, you want to are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got your submission. Would love to hear kind of like, I guess, focusing on like what was the core topic or thing that you learned and how did you implement it? And then what did you learn while you were implementing it?
Well, I submitted to talk about my friend's company that I'm working on.
I've seen you posting a lot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think it probably makes more sense for me to share.
Let's do that one. Yeah.
Doing. Yeah. So I've been following you for a while, and I feel like your approach and like what you're doing from a content delivery channel and LinkedIn is unique. And I was like, a few weeks ago, I was like, I just don't see like anyone else doing it. Why is he there all the time? And I just started digging in and trying to figure out like who else besides you and Dave Gerhardt was doing this and was doing it well. And I figured out that there was like not very many other people. There were a few, and I could sort of figure out what they were doing. So I just started to like copy it and like put my own perspective on it. And like very quickly saw that LinkedIn, something was different with LinkedIn. And like my posts were doing really well, even though I had like no followers. So I just kept like going, and I spent like a week just like searching everyone's posts and trying to figure out what was going on and doing research and looking at all your posts and all your impressions and seeing how like what posted well and what post didn't. And so I just like was like ideating all the time on like, what could I bring? Like, what's my skill? What's my unique perspective on marketing that is not yours, right? Because I also believe in everything that you do. So I couldn't like just rinse and repeat your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to like just be Dave Gerhardt, but like I'm a direct response marketer and that's where my skills are.
Cool.
So I'm more like Dave's style than I am your style, though I learn a lot from you. So I just started to like really think a lot about what I had to offer and like, you know, not post BS. And that was like really hard because I don't have like a demand gen live to like just fuck around and like record things and then figure out what's the best and post it. So it's been really hard, but, and it's like it's been really all consuming, but it's been working really well. So, you know, if you want to just like go and look at some of my posts, it's been fun. I've been getting like huge reach.
How long have you been doing it for?
3 weeks.
Everyone listen to this, okay? She has almost no followers, has taken the information, has been posting for 2 weeks, and is getting incredible reach. If you are not posting every day on LinkedIn, then and you have ambitions to go and do something like get a new job or get a promotion or start your own company or sell more stuff or be a better marketer, whatever you want to do, any of those things, it's right in front of you. The formula is actually quite simple.
I just don't know why anyone else isn't doing it. I'm like surprised, but I do think it's also like partly the changes that have happened on LinkedIn lately. Like I think 2 weeks ago on here, someone, I think you said like something's going on. My posts are being shown all the time. What's going on? And I like posted a question in the chat and I was like, what changes? Like what happened on LinkedIn that's causing this to happen? So there have been changes. Because you used to not be able to do this. You used to not be able to just like start posting with no followers and get incredible reach. So that's like relatively new, I think, but maybe I have no idea. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I'm not exactly, I don't understand. It's also because I have like such a base now that it's hard for me to understand the baseline dynamics, but cool. Thank you. I hope a lot of people found that helpful because it doesn't need to be posting on LinkedIn. It can be any of the things that we cover here. You can go in and you can find the non-branded keywords that are unprofitable inside of what you're doing. You can create a piece of content and run it in Facebook and swap the creative at a frequency of 2. Any of the things that we talk about, you can go and implement and learn for yourself, because maybe what you'll find is that the frequency actually works until 2.5, right? And so you might find something that I don't know yet. Awesome, Katie. Thank you. I'm glad it's working out.
Good stuff, Katie.
I've been seeing your posts, like there's visibility. So keep going. It's great.
Word. Peace out, everybody. Thanks again. Hope you enjoy the rest of the night.
See you, G.
Later, Chris. Take care, bro.
See you, man. I might take a couple more if people have some. Let's drop a couple in here. Let's see. Anyone has a couple on those points, just let me know. Let's see. Well, anyone feel free to jump in if you have questions. Otherwise, talk geo-targeted ads. Okay, Elaine. Let's talk geo-targeted ads. Why don't, if you're not on mute, why don't you jump off mute and just ask in a little bit more depth? Is it e-com? Is it like, just give me a little bit more detail on what you're trying to do.
Hi. Okay. I am trying to switch. I normally do B2B, but I'm trying to switch into a local context for a client. And I'm looking at their Google Ads, and there's such a broad category. So I started looking at geofencing, because it's a very, very local niche market. And I spent like $32 just to get baseline data.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got some good direction on where the people are congregating and where they're biting. But now I need to funnel that into a strategy. And I just thought, well, everybody else that I listen to says to just go broad on Google Ads and let the pixels pick it out and everything. But I'm thinking, if I already have this information and I know that it's like skewing a certain way, would you go and trust that micro data over the broader, Google Ad customization thing?
What's the product or service?
Okay, so it's a coffee roaster that actually roasts, so they can go national, and they want to do that, but they're trying to get their foot traffic in 3 different stores located in Santa Barbara.
Okay, so they have 3 locations inside in Santa Barbara, and people need to go in and get coffee. And then typically it's a customer acquisition mechanism. And then once they get in and they go and they experience it, hopefully they come back. That's the model in that type of thing. So, I wouldn't run, is it in Google? I wouldn't run AdWords for this.
Too broad.
I would run Facebook and Instagram with like a quarter to a half mile radius around the coffee shop with a, like, you decide. There's got to be some easy app that has a rewards or loyalty program that they can install in their POS system. And I would say, come in, first coffee is free. I would give them the coffee just to get them in. And then that is the acquisition mechanism. It costs you, the cost of goods on a coffee is 30 cents, right? So it's like, it's almost nothing than the cost of running the ad. And then you have someone that's gone in and experienced the coffee, and then hopefully they come back later.
Right.
That's what I would do.
Right. I think that's smart.
And then if you want to do going a little bit deeper, I'm not sure what their spend is or what the creative capabilities are. But I would start to build like other cohorts inside of that if you wanted to. So like people that went to UCSB, and then I would have the ad about something about UCSB, right? And then you could think about all the different permutations around what you could do if you used like the location plus one interest, or the location plus gender and age, or you could try and use some of those to just make the ad a little bit more specific.
Okay, and you think that that's better than to go broad and let the pixels like pick out a population and then base the strategy on what the pixels pick out for like a Facebook ad?
There's only so far that someone's going to drive to get coffee, right?
Right.
And so you're going to have to set some geographical radius. Okay. It just depends on how wide you want to do it. I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer to that one. I wouldn't go further than 10 miles. But I would start smaller, and then I would expand as you start to see success. It also depends on what the size of the audience is, right? And so like if you're a quarter mile around the place and there's not that many people, then you're not going to get enough impressions to make a difference. So You can play around with that inside of Facebook and just move it from 1/4 mile to 5 miles and see what the differences looks like. And then once people hit the site, the pixel is going to refresh, but the audience is going to be so small that you almost don't need the pixel will deliver the ad to people, but you almost don't need it because the audience is so small. The cost efficiency benefits are going to be very marginal.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Cool. Happy to help. All right. Cool. Well, if nobody has anything else, okay. They just keep, right when I'm trying to close it out, they keep coming in. I'm fine with that. I would go for a while. Chris, what are your thoughts on using multiple conversions within a website homepage? I don't have a true stance on this. I haven't tested it left or right. The common one that you're probably asking for that I see a lot is sign in for a free trial or a freemium product plus get a demo. That's the one that I see most common with 2 conversion points, and I'm okay with it. I haven't done enough. I'd be speaking in like uneducated if I told you there was one way or another that was better. I just like haven't tested that in depth. I like giving buyers the option if they're ready to go and they want to get into the product, that's great. If they're ready to go and they get into the product and you realize it's like an ICP customer and they have usage and you want to put a sales motion on top of that, I think that's fine to move them through from freemium to paid. And if they're a larger company, they're probably going to go through a demo, not a freemium flow. If it's going to be a big deal size is typically what I would see. So I am not okay. So he clarified it's quote versus demo. You got to pick one. I would just A/B test. I did this in 2016. All of our sales reps called it a demo, and we were selling a medical device hardware product, and the product costs about like $6,000. But hospitals would come in and buy 50 of them, so it was like it would become a large deal size with a recurring revenue model on top. And I A/B tested, get a quote, and then having that be the main CTA to a page versus get a demo and then have that be the main CTA page. And the get a quote performed astronomically better than get a demo, even though all of us internally called it a demo, but customers, I guess, preferred the quote. The sales process behind it was exactly the same. We were still going to go to the hospital and do a discovery and give a demo and eventually give them a quote. It was just what the CTA was and how that aligned with how the customer thought about it. I don't know if that helps, but that is my experience with those. If it quote and demo is about the same, I think the real answer to this question, if you're asking, is A/B test them. But if you find out that demo wins, then I would put demo, and I might also put pricing on the webpage. I might put a pricing page up. That's another feeling that I have. I think that especially for companies that have like a $400 a month product that don't publish pricing, I just find it very, I think a lot of us have struggled with that as one way or another as a buyer, of like needing to go and talk to a sales rep to get a price that's $400 a month for a software tool. It's like, why don't you just put that on your website, and then I would know whether or not I could buy it. It's good for the seller. It qualifies out people that are looking for the free product, and it's good for the buyer because they know whether or not it fits in their budget or whatever it is beforehand. So I personally, I love HubSpot publishes their pricing. Some of the things that they sell are $3,000 a month. If you put all the things on top of it, you can build a $50,000 a year HubSpot instance easily. And they publish that straight away because I just think it's what I like to call buyer enablement. How do we enable buyers to take and I'll go deeper into this, but it's like, how do we enable buyers with all the information that they need in order to make a buying decision on their own? We know that buyers, and everyone here will know, when you go through a buying process, you want to get as far as you can before you talk to the sales rep. And so how do we as marketers allow them to get as far as they can before they talk to a sales rep? I love the idea of the 5-minute quick demo, letting them see the product, whether it's animated or whether it's live recorded or any of those things. I love the idea of them knowing generally what the pricing is. I love the idea of them being able to use the product if it makes sense for the business model. To actually get into the product, I think is interesting. To product comparison guides, case studies, references are tough, but testimonial videos would be fine. Like any of those things, how do we empower buyers? ROI calculators that we use, as our sales reps use an ROI calculator. Why don't we give it to the buyer so that they can use it on their own and they can go and present it to the CFO without needing our sales rep? And so those are some of the things that I think about you could basically take all of your tools that you use to enable your sales reps, repackage and retool them, and make them available to your buyers so that they can use it to guide their own process. I think just becomes a much more efficient, buyer-centric way to help people go through that process. A little bit of a rant. That was nice. All right, everyone. Well, the questions are out here. Appreciate all of you stopping in, and really hope to see you next week. Hope you all had a great 4th of July. By the way, I saw some of the I saw a helicopter flying over in LA with all of the illegal stuff. I used to live in LA, so it was pretty crazy. All the illegal fireworks, that is. I didn't see any. We didn't have them here in Boston, but I did make it to the beach one day, which was nice. And so, yeah, really appreciate you all being here. We've been trying to, keep it fresh. The concepts are, I think, if you've been here for 10 episodes in a row, you kind of understand the core concepts. So trying to get into different layers to keep it fresh. So hope you all have a great week. If you have questions or other things like that, feel free to send them to an email before. Just kind of store them in your head and we can cover them next week. And lastly, if we have another nominee for next week, if you want to shoot me either a LinkedIn message or an email that says, hey, I did figure out that the content with a frequency of 2 and I ran it, it's actually 2.2, and you want to come back and tell me that I'm wrong, I would love that. I would love that you ran the test. I would love that you learned something that I don't know. And so if you want to share your story about something that you've done, feel free to message me. Would love to give you an opportunity to share that with everyone here. I think it inspires a lot of other people to kind of take the leap and make the first post or take the first step, whatever that is. And so, yeah, really appreciate you all. Hope you have a great night and hope to see you next week.